The Bantamweight title is on the line this Saturday, May 9th, as Dominick Cruz takes on Henry Cejudo at UFC 249. In honor of this title fight, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at who would belong on the UFC's Mount Rushmore of the Bantamweight division. Uriah Faber should have fought his whole career at Bantamweight, but the division didn't come to the UFC until 2011. At that point, Faber was already 8 years into his MMA career, and despite the fact that youth is a premium asset at lighter weight classes, Faber still managed to put together an impressive record. From the inception of the UFC's Bantamweight division in 2011 until Faber's first retirement in 2016, the California Kid put together an outstanding record of 9 wins and 5 losses, with 6 of those wins coming by submission. 5 losses might sound like a lot, but when you break it down, it's not as bad as it sounds. Of Faber's 5 losses, 2 of them were decision losses to Dominick Cruz in UFC title fights. Another one was losing to a young contender who was undefeated in the UFC named Jimmy Rivera when Faber was 37 years old. And Uriah's other 2 losses came by virtue of the next face on the mountain. Renan Barão's stardom in the UFC was somewhat short-lived, but the caliber of performance Barão was able to put on from 2010 to 2014 was one of the most impressive runs in the sport's history. Barão defeated Uriah Faber twice on that run, including a finish over Faber, who has only been finished 4 times in his 46-fight career. Barão technically has the most consecutive UFC Bantamweight title defenses with 3. 1 by submission and the other 2 by TKO. All of the performances? Spectacular. For a time, Barão was considered one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world and was also one of the most entertaining. But that era was ended by the next face on the mountain. At number 2 is It's arguable that TJ Dillashaw should be number 1 on this list, and in my opinion, he is the most talented bantamweight I've ever seen. Dillashaw absolutely dismantled and knocked out the aforementioned Renan Barão not once, but twice. Dillashaw is held by many MMA fans to be responsible for physically beating Barão so badly that the former champ was never the same again. Since January 2014, Dillashaw has been on an insane run at bantamweight. Over that stretch, Dillashaw is 8-1, thoroughly dominating every one of his 8 victories. But Dillashaw did come up short in one razor-close, controversial, split decision to lose his title. Sitting with his face in the George Washington position, the greatest bantamweight in UFC history, Dominick the Dominator Cruz. Once again, this could easily be TJ Dillashaw in this spot, but Cruz has overcome a lot more adversity in his career and has proven to be competitive at the top level for more years. Not to mention, Cruz has the head-to-head win over Dillashaw, even if that win was controversial. Dominick Cruz was the UFC's first bantamweight champion and defended the belt twice before injuries severely derailed his fighting career. Due to injuries, Cruz has only been able to compete 4 times since October 2011. But the Dominator was inspirationally impressive in those 4 outings. Dom had 1 knockout in less than a minute, a title win over TJ Dillashaw, a title defense over Uriah Faber, and a title losing decision to Cody Garbrandt. But in Cruz's defense, he had considerable injuries going into that Garbrandt loss, and has been unable to compete since. Until this Saturday. Cruz is coming off of a 3.5-year absence from competition, and he is not taking a tune-up fight. Cruz is going to take on the man who I consider to be the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter currently, Henry Cejudo. I already consider Cruz to be in the pole position on the Mount Rushmore of UFC bantamweights. But if Cruz is successful this weekend, coming off yet another massive layoff, and defeats the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Cruz could be considered for the Mount Rushmore of the entire sport. Please like the video, share it with your friends, follow me on Twitter at MPTalks, and subscribe to my channel for more MMA content.